Hi everyone, it's Ian here, and welcome to tutorial 39, Crack Maths, on how to use conversion graphs. Okay, so a conversion graph is something that we use when we want to move between two different things. So the best way to get to understand them is actually to dive in and have a look at one. So on the board, you're going to see that I've got a conversion graph here, and you can see that it's a straight line, and you can also see that it goes through the point 0, 0. Now we've got two axes on here. So the axes that we use are the x-axis. The x-axis refers to the bottom line, okay? And the y-axis refers to that vertical line there. So you might notice that they're going up in different numbers. So on the y-axis, we can see that it's going up in tens. So it's going 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. And on the x-axis, we can see that they're going up in ones. Now, the diagonal line that you see, this is a line that connects the values on the x-axis with the values on the y-axis. So if we look at, say, well, let's look at this question here. So the first question that we've got today says, find the value of x when y is equal to 10. So what we do here is we look for, on the y-axis, we look for when y is 10, okay? Now, if I look here, I've identified where y is 10. Now, if I draw a horizontal line along from here, every point on this horizontal line that I've drawn is where y is equal to 10. But I want to use this graph to find out the value of x on the graph when y is 10. So what I need to do is I need to read along this y is 10. And then when I get to the diagonal line, when I get to the graph, the conversion graph, in fact, and the conversion graph is the diagonal line. That's what the graph is. When I get to that diagonal line, I need to then stop and read down. Okay, so I'm going to stop there and I'm going to go all the way down to the x point. Okay, so I'm going down to my x-axis, and I can see here that on my x-axis, my x value is 1. Okay, so I now know that when y is 10, x is 1. Okay? So when y is 10, x is 1. And that's that. That's how this graph works. So let's look at the second question on this, which is find the y value when the x value is 3. So this time what we're going to do is I'm going to read along. I'm going to look for where x is 3. Okay, I found x is 3. So now every point along this line, along the vertical line that goes through x equals 3, is where x is equal to 3. No matter where I go, up or down this line, x is equal to 3. But I want to know what the value of y is on our graph when x is 3. So what I have to do is I have to read up, and then when I hit the graph, I have to stop, and I have to read across to find out what y is. So if I look, I read up, I read across, and I can see that y is going to be 30. Okay, so this is how these graphs work. Okay, let's try one more question, and then what we're going to do is we'll look at this in a scenario to see how this is linked to conversions. Okay, so question 3, here we have it. Um, use the graph to find x when y is 10. Okay, so remember, same as last time actually. So we need to identify where y is 10. Okay, right, y is 10 here. We can draw a horizontal line across here because all of the points on this horizontal line are where y equals 10. But we want to know what the x value is on the graph when y equals 10. So what that means is we need to read along all the values where y equals 10 until we hit the graph. When we're at this graph, we stop and we read down, okay, to find out what the x value is. Okay, so I think the x value here probably looks like it's about 17. Okay, so we know that when y is equal to 10, on this graph, x will equal 17. Okay, let's have a look at one more. Okay, question 4. and this says find the y value when x is 32. Okay, so I need to read along the x-axis now until I can find what I think looks like the point where x is 32. Sometimes we have the exact points numbered, sometimes we have to guess where they are based on the other numbers, okay? So, but you have to just pick. So I think 32 looks like it's about here. So what I need to do now is I need to draw a vertical line up from here because all of the points that are in this vertical line are going to be where x is 32. But I want to use the graph to find what is the value of y when x is 32 on this graph. Okay, so I'm going to read up. Okay, I get to the line and then I read across, and I suspect that that looks to me like when x is 32, y is going to be 19. Okay, if you need to think about that some more, pause the video and have a look at that to have a think. Okay, if not, let's move on to our scenario questions. So here we go. The conversion graph on this one shows the relationship between miles and kilometers. How many kilometers would be equivalent to 6 miles? Okay, so now this one, we haven't been given x's and y's, we've been given miles and kilometers. So we want to find out how many kilometers is equivalent to 6 miles. So the first job that we've got is finding out where 6 miles is. So I can see, looking at this, that the bottom axis, the x-axis is miles. So luckily, I can see a big 6 there at the end. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a line up at this 6 because this vertical line here represents all the points where 6 miles are. Okay, now the graph tells us the points where miles and kilometers are equal. Okay, so if I get to the graph, I know that that point at the graph where I hit the graph is going to have the y coordinate where the kilometers equal the miles. Okay, and let's have a look here. I think this well, it's between 8 and 10. Well, I can see it's actually between 9 and 10. They just haven't numbered the 9. It looks to me slightly more than halfway. I would say that looks like it's about, well, halfway would be 9.5. I think it's a little bit more than halfway. So I'm going to say that that's 9.6 kilometers. Okay. So I can use this conversion graph now to say that when someone's traveled 6 miles, that's probably about 9.6 kilometers. It's not always going to be 100% accurate with graphs because there's always a little bit of a margin for error for reading. But don't worry, as long as you're reading it roughly, you're gonna do well. Okay, right. Let's have a look at question 2. I'm gonna give you some moments to do this actually, but I'll read it out. It's gonna how many miles would be equivalent to 4 kilometers. So take a moment. You can pause the video if you like, and have a look to see if you could work out how many miles are equivalent to 4 kilometers using this graph. Okay, hopefully that was enough time. So 4 kilometers, 4 kilometers is on the y-axis, so I'm going to find it. I found it here. Now I'm going to draw a horizontal line here because all of the values along this horizontal line are equal to 4 kilometers, okay? So what I want to know is the conversion though. So I'm going over, I hit my diagonal line, I hit there, and now I'm going to read down. Now, if I read down from here, it looks to me like that is 2.5 miles. Okay, and so there we go. We'll say that 4 kilometers equals 2.5 miles. And that's that. That is conversion graphs complete. Now, if you want some more practice on these, remember to visit crackmaths.co.uk, tutorial 39, and I'm going to leave you there. So hope you have fun, and I will see you in the next tutorial. So long.